Hi, it's Andrew from Acuity Auto Redact. Welcome to the Data Protection Weekly podcast, where we wrap up all the biggest issues affecting data protection professionals in the UK each week. So regulators are telling us we have to keep children safe online. So to make services compliant, gates are put up. We ask for passports, facial scans, credit card information, and with that, you've successfully verified a user's age. But here's the problem. In trying to build a digital fortress to keep kids out, you've accidentally built a massive glowing honeypot of highly sensitive personal data, and hackers are licking their lips. So how do we balance the risks of protecting children against the risks of storing lots of personal data from credit cards and passports? So let's set the scene. If you're operating a digital service in the UK right now, you could be caught in some regulatory crossfire. On the one side, you have Ofcom and the Online Safety Act pushing hard for robust age assurance to shield minors from content that could be harmful. And on the other, you have the ICO and the UK GDPR staring you down, demanding that you keep the minimum data required to keep your service running and storage limitation. But here's the truth. To prove who someone is and how old they are, you have to process some incredibly sensitive information, at least if you're going to do it properly. We're talking government IDs, biometric facial scans, and under UK GDPR, that's biometric data, so Article 9 special category data applies, and that can potentially throw up issues. So the paradox we face is trying to comply with online safety rules, and many businesses are adopting clunky age assurance tools that just hoard this data potentially. And while they're effective, they verify the user and they'll scan a passport. They may keep a copy to make sure it can be verified. They may log the facial estimation metadata. You have to be really careful that the tools that are being used are being compliant with the spirit of GDPR, particularly around biometrics. So why should you care right now? Well, a data breach involving thousands of users' passports and facial scans is going to be a threat to a business. And the ICO's children's code makes it explicitly clear age assurance should never result in the collection of excessive personal data. So if you're treating data verification a bit like a data harvesting exercise, even if you aren't aware of it, you may be in a bit of a compliance crossfire. You're replacing an Online Safety Act risk with a GDPR risk. So how do we do this properly? How do we make sure that we're assuring people's ages without potentially leading to a toxic data dump in the future? Well, here are some potential steps that you could implement straight away and something that you can get to grips with and start at the start of the week. So one option is to adopt the token don't keep rule. Your mantra for age assurance must be verify the information, then destroy it. If you are using a system to prove a user's over 18, once they've passed the test and the signal has come through that they are above 18, make sure that the data that has been stored to verify them is removed. And that means even any metadata that shows facial features or anything that could be linked as biometric data or potentially identifiable information. Just a tick in their account once it's been done, which is tokenized. That's going to make things much easier and more secure. Again, if the system can't have the information that the attackers want, or doesn't have the information rather, then that means it is safe by default. As well as that, consider an API attack surface audit as your second line of defense. Sit down with whoever is your lead developer for the system or the chief technical architect or officer and look if their systems are secretly caching information with the APIs that are used for age verification. Are the web servers logging, raw API calls sent to age verification vendors? What information is potentially being stored in some storage bucket in the cloud platform? This is worth checking, because even if you architect a system that's designed to destroy and purge data, you have to make absolutely sure that it hasn't ended up in some bucket. And I know that personally from running a service where we've audited ourselves and our test development builds to make sure that no data is cached. You have to check every layer where the data could be cached and see if it's there when you're testing, and if it is, put safeguards in place to make sure that it is definitely destroyed when no longer needed. That is part of data minimization. It's not just deleting data off a system, it is auditing API trails, cloud storage buckets, database values, making sure the data is gone. And thirdly, look at the vendor's AI black box. If you're using a third party for age estimation, you are the one who could potentially be on the hook. So when you are using them as a service, ask, are you using the faces that we input in passports and scans to train your algorithm? If it's yes, avoid them, because that isn't part of the consent of a sign-up process, and there isn't a really clear way to opt out. It's just way too risky and completely against GDPR to be doing that. And secondly, ask them how long they retain biometric data. You want it in writing and in the data protection agreement with that third party that they're destroying it as soon as it's not needed. So it's completely possible to balance the age verification rules and data protection principles, but you do have to be a bit savvy and a bit careful. And as always, the regulatory landscape is tricky, but if you focus on the core principles of data minimalization and smart vendor management alongside robust auditing, you are secure. And if you are a data protection officer or information governance professional, make sure that you check out acuityautoredact.com. On a free account, you can have up to 200 pages redacted of personally identifiable information and by event and category from a DSAR to see how quickly you can automate your data protection in regards to processing DSARs and keep the DPO in control. It's not just AI doing the job. AI works as your power assistant doing the things that you want it to do. So check out acuityautoredact.com. And it's been great speaking to you. Looking forward to talking as always next week. Stay compliant, and we'll enjoy having a conversation about another data protection topic next week. Thank you.
Data Protection Weekly.